You're listening to Shoe In, covering the ins and outs of all things footwear, from sneakers to heels, loafers to slippers, and every type of shoe in between. Brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. And now your footwear insiders, Matt Priest and Andy Polk.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Shoe In Show, the Footwear Industries podcast. We are covering all things footwear, just as the lovely lady said on the intro. Our focus really is on the business side of things that are happening in our industry. A lot of that's around the culture, it's around leadership, obviously around sales. We got to sell shoes to even, keep getting our paychecks. So let's hope those keep going well. But we've had a leadership series this year where we've brought on a lot of CEOs to discuss changes, how they've dealt with COVID, how they've dealt with remote teams in this new environment, and we want to continue that with one of Matt, I think the latest CEO to the footwear industry, and this is a great introduction for all our other footwear listeners and leaders in the footwear industry to this new CEO. Tee it up, who we got today on the Shoe In Show.
Yeah, Andy, thanks so much. This is really exciting for me because effective today, as it airs, Mark Worden, who's the new president CEO of Shoe Carnival, has joined us for his first time on Shoe In Show. He is obviously taking over for Cliff Sifford, who's the FDRA chairman. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Mark, we want to welcome you to the footwear industry. We know you've been in the industry for a number of years, so it's not a welcome to the industry itself, but to FDRA, to Shoe In Show, and we really appreciate you coming on today.
Hey, thanks so much, Matt and Andy. I really am pleased to start my first week as CEO, getting a chance to talk to you guys.
That's awesome. Well, let's educate our listeners on how you got to the helm at Shoe Carnival. We call it our shoe story. It's a little hokey, but it works. Talk to us about your shoe story, knowing that you've been in other consumer good categories leading up to this, but how did you get to the helm at Shoe Carnival?
I've had a really fun journey, Matt. I've bounced all over the world in the last 3 decades. Jersey boy, New Yorker by birth. Started out in retail early on in the food industry and absolutely loved it. Worked for the Kroger Corporation and Hannaford Brothers, 2 big players out east, and then Kroger, biggest in America. Loved it. Then pivoted into packaged goods for nearly 2 decades, working for Kimberly-Clark and SC Johnson. And that took me to become a cheesehead for a while up there in Wisconsin.
Right.
Became a big old Brett Favre fan. And as my kids were growing up, we really spent a lot of time at Lambeau. And I'm embarrassed to say for some of the years what a big Bucks fan I was until recently when they finally became winners. So that's been fun. A huge Giannis fan. And then my journey took me to Europe. It's been almost 5 years working for SC Johnson, leading the subsidiaries in the United Kingdom and Scandinavia. And that was a remarkable journey to learn the consumers and trends and styles and fashion all across Europe, as well as I got a real passion for the technologies that Europe was far ahead of us on. In digital, for example, in home delivery and e-commerce. And my journey from 14 to mid-18 over there really stimulated some new thinking that I could bring back to America for where Europe was. I came back to America in 18, and I had the great pleasure to join Cliff and this awesome leadership team here as the chief marketing officer, chief strategy, I don't know, a bunch of other titles. Right. I worked with Cliff for about, and then in 19 became the president. And for the last couple of years, Cliff and I, as well as the great team here, we've been working through transitions, preparing for, this week.
Right.
So in a nutshell, about half my life's been in retail. My roots were retail. I got lost for a couple decades in consumer packaged goods, but came back to retail in 18 and couldn't be more energized with who I'm with.
That's awesome. That's so good to hear. Now, Mark, as you take over from Cliff, as you just mentioned, what are your strategic plans for Shoe Carnival? What's your vision as you look out? Shoe Carnival's had amazing growth over the past few years. How are you going to replicate that and then build upon it?
Well, I am so passionate about the strength of our company today Where Cliff leaves us, we've never been stronger in our 43-year history. And his leadership and the team's leadership during the pandemic has us in a place that our balance sheet is stronger than ever. Our Q2 results we just talked about, our profit was multiple times higher than pre-pandemic. Our customers are shopping at a higher frequency and conversion than we've ever seen. So we start from a very, very strong place, Matt. Where are we going? We're going to rapidly ignite growth. With that strength of balance sheet and all of our new customers, our focus right now is to reignite our store growth. And I think that's an important piece of the go forward. For the past handful of years, we've been focused on the fleet profitability and productivity metrics, really trying to get right-sized and find where the customers love our brand, the customers love shopping with us, making sure we have our stores there. And where we had bad real estate, we've gotten rid of those over the past few years. And so we think the fleet is right-sized, and in 2022, we're going to return to net new store growth. And that's an exciting place to be taking the helm. We think there's tremendous potential for geographic expansion, and we'll probably talk about it, but we are retail first, and our concept is bricks first. And I can tell you, we are thrilled with the consumer's resounding return to bricks, despite the pandemic, despite Delta, and we might want to talk about that. But anyways, my headline is a return to growth now that our store productivity is where we want it to be, and we're ready to rock and roll.
Well, I think that's really fascinating that you guys have Yellow Brick Road that you're following there, because I think a lot of people are talking a lot about digital, and of course you guys have done more on your digital side too, but to hear the brick and mortar, I mean, you're speaking Matt's love language because he went to NC State, which is basically brick university.
It is brick university.
I think it has the most bricks per any university in the world, probably.
Nice call out there, Andy.
But I do want to ask about how your sales went for back to school. We just finished. The children are back in school. Hallelujah. And obviously you're a publicly traded company, so we don't want to get into numbers, but I just want to get on, when you're looking at this, what's your feel for, how things went in 2022 for back to school? Did it meet your expectations?
Yeah, Andy, as you said, I can't talk through the whole back to school, but I can share with you Q2 and through the first 3 weeks of August, which is the peak of our back to school. Sure. So first and foremost, you said it, kids went back. So different in 2020. We bought for a normal back to school season. And as we got through the first 3 weeks of August, that's what we saw. Kids resoundingly went back to schools across our whole geographic footprint. Sports for fall started, and we saw, moms and dads coming in to buy not just their athletic shoes for the sports, but multiple different categories to get back to a normal life, whether it's homecomings or just going out with friends again. It's been wonderful to have life restart. Q2, I can speak really frank about. Q2 was outstanding. And that's the start of back to school for us towards the tail end. As we said, we had record sales in Q2, and it outpaced even our expectations of how fast customer traffic returned. With Delta being talked about nonstop, and all of us taking the highest safety precautions for ourselves, for our employees, we were not sure if we would see consumers return as fast as we had bought for. They did in Q2. They did. It was great. So let me flash forward to Q3. I can talk about the first 3 weeks. Traffic, the first 3 weeks of August, which covers the peak season, was up 50% versus 2020. Of course, it should be, but we were fully open at that time in August of 2020. So to have traffic in August 2021 up 50% and comps, very strong, very, very strong. I'll give you an even better benchmark. Comps in 2021 for those first 3 weeks, up 23% versus 2019, a normal back to school season.
That's
so
awesome.
23% with traffic, like I said, up 50-ish% versus 2020. So the first 3 weeks we're thrilled with. We guided, at that moment of time that we believed the momentum would continue throughout the quarter. And we guided the street that The quarter would be our strongest Q3 in history for sales, for profits, more customers than ever. So we were pretty confident and thrilled that customers, and I think this is the theme, customers are figuring out how do you deal with, whether it's Delta or Alpha or whatever's next. Customers are figuring out this new normal. And each of us here today, I'm in my office, for example. At Shoe Carnival, we've been in our offices for over a year. We figured out how to do it safely with a tremendous slate of metrics to deal with it. But we've found us being together has been wonderful for our culture, for our team, for the trends, and reacting to the customers. Well, and beyond what I think the numbers show it.
True.
That's awesome. Let me ask you to put on your forecast hat and look at holiday 2022. 2021. We're going way too advanced. Holiday 2021. As we look forward, we know there's huge supply chain concerns getting product in. Obviously, inflation in terms of factory production and shipping and et cetera. And obviously Shoe Carnival did an extraordinary job of working with brands to get product in and get dynamic product on the shelf. And it's one of the reasons why your sales were so good. Is that going to be a problem in holiday? Are you guys concerned about shortages or product diversification or any of those issues? What are you concerned about? And then how do you prepare for that as you look forward to the holiday season?
Yeah, I said a few weeks ago, our back half of the year will be the best we've ever delivered. Wow. We are ready. Full stop. Sales and profit, our back half of the year will be stronger than we've ever delivered, is our guidance to the street we gave a few weeks ago. Holiday, we're prepared for. I'm truly fortunate that the organization Cliff built here in the merchandising team is spectacular. They've taken a very forward-looking approach, buying for growth, and we're prepared for the holiday season. Now, with that, Andy, of course, the global supply chain's a mess across industries, not related to us specifically, but there will be disruption throughout the holiday season across most categories. But we're in a position that we have the customers coming into our store at very high rates, and we have what they want right now. So our conversion, we feel very good about. Absolutely, we will see lateness on some products and delays, and at the end of the day, there will be disruption to the categories for the holiday. We're ready to deliver, and we're ready to have a great season, though, with what we bought.
That's great. It's good to hear. We hear so many negative things and fear-mongering about what's happening, so it's good to hear a CEO at a retailer say, you know what, we're ready for this, and there's going to be dynamic product on the shelves, and fear not, come in and buy.
Mm-hmm. Fear not. We're going to have safe stores for our customers to come in all around the country. We're going to have what they want to gift. We're going to have the great athletic and non-athletic cross categories. But I think importantly, though, from a mindset, we're expecting customers to want to shop this holiday season. Last year, it was okay in terms of the mindset, but I still think COVID weighed heavily on those intense days after Thanksgiving and leading into holiday. We still saw consumers concerned about being in tight stores or locations. E-commerce was doing exceptional last year. It's still doing exceptional, but we believe that the customer is more resilient this year and ready to come back and shop. So I guess our message is Shoe Carnival is ready for the customers to come back in store and keep it up. Like I said, back to school August, 50% traffic growth versus prior year. We think this holiday season could be very strong in terms of customers coming back to real stores for real experiences, getting out of their slippers and bathrobes and going somewhere fun. The Shoe Carnival is pretty damn fun. So we think people will be back to come see us.
Mark, I know me personally, I like both shopping in-store and online. And e-commerce exploded in 2020 and continues to increase in 2021, even after years of, impressive growth leading up to the pandemic. Is there, you think, a ceiling to the percentage of how many shoes we sell as an industry will be online, or do you think it's sky's the limit for online sales?
I think, I'll talk Shoe Carnival before the category. Shoe Carnival grew triple digit during the pandemic, and we were really far behind. One of Cliff's great visions was to establish a strong platform about 9-10 years ago and rapidly build it. But if you looked at 19, e-commerce was less than 6% of our company's total revenues. We went into a rapid investment mode to scale that up with the right technology, the right people, and get ready to catch up because we were so far behind at 2018, 2019. When the pandemic came, we were seeing explosive growth because we had everything ready. And so if you flash forward, e-commerce now represents in that 11 to 13% of the company revenue for this year we're expecting compared to sub 6. For us, building on your question, we see years of continued double-digit growth ahead and probably leveling out at that high teens to low 20% of the total company revenue in the next 3 to 5 years. Could it be more than that? Maybe. But back to the point before, shopping for shoes is fun. I mean, there's some categories you don't want to go out there and do it. This is a social event. And quantitative study after study tells us you want to get out there, enjoy it, try on your new kicks, try on your new fashion, and have that fun with whomever you do. So is the sky the limit? I don't think so. No, I don't think the sky's the limit and stores go away anytime in my lifetime. And for us, we absolutely think it'll be, like I said, high teens in the 20s as we flash forward 3, 5, 7 years. So meaningful, incredibly profitable, but we see it as an omni-channel experience. We do not see that as a replacement to our fleet of stores.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Mark, because even in our survey, we talk about why people go to brick and mortar. And we do a number of consumer surveys a year that people can access as members. But when you look at the brick and mortar reasons and why I think you're bullish on it, not just the social aspect, but there's a convenience aspect because you can drive down the street to Shoe Carnival, 2, 3, 4, 5 miles away, buy product, try it on, have it ready to go, and not have to wait the day or two that e-commerce delivers your shoes. So people don't think about convenience in that aspect. They all think e-commerce is convenient because you don't have to go to the store. But oftentimes it's pretty convenient to hit the grocery store and then a Shoe Carnival and then a Barnes & Noble and head home and you've done your shopping for the day. So I think there's a convenience factor to it. But I do want to pivot to the I word, and that's inflation, right? And so we've heard all this talk about inflation. We're seeing it in the numbers clearly. There's a ton of stimulus that's been dumped into the economy as a response to COVID. The U.S. government keeps saying it's transitory as if it's kind of a flash in the pan. But as time goes on, transitory turns into a little bit more permanency as it relates to how long this will be sustained. And so it's going to be an ongoing concern. It's impacting just about every consumer good. What are your expectations for pricing in 2022? Is it transitory or is it something we're going to have to deal with for a while?
I think that inflation is going to be meaningful in 2022, particularly in the labor market. And I'll talk about products in a moment, but the national debate of moving towards a livable wage and $15 an hour is one we're actively involved in and supportive of progressing towards that. So our communities and our wonderful team members have a wage that supports strengthening communities, strengthening livelihood. And so we're on a multi-year journey to reflect that, or where it's already law, we're already there, of course, or necessary competitively. But we think that wage inflation will continue and it's not transitory. The average hourly wage in retail and the leaders across multiple industries have already set 15 plus as the new rate. I don't see that returning. And so that will become likely the highest challenge for retailers is the battle for talent in the next 1 to 2 years. Unemployment will probably get close to or back to pre-pandemic levels. It's rapidly getting there. And that incredible intensity to find the top talent is something we are taking as a priority because customer service and delighting customers in that experience is really job one for us. So we'll continue to invest there. We think the industry is there. I don't see a world where that returns back to something significantly lower. Now, we'll also have pressure on the cost of goods for sure in 2022. That one I am hopeful is transitory as we see the supply chain implications from COVID really elevating costs throughout the global supply chain, whether it's shipping containers or just the absolute cost of getting things through our logistics here. Those costs will be up. We're seeing costs accelerate, and we expect those to be up for 2022 meaningfully. We're hopeful, though, as COVID is either mitigated, eradicated, or whatever happens to it, that the global supply chain over time would start to get back to a more normalized cost structure. And so we're optimistic that midterm, those costs could go back down. But in the near term, I think inflation is a meaningful challenge that anyone dealing with the global supply chain will face into in 2022. And if they're not, I'd love to know how they're doing it from that.
Maybe they're not in business anymore.
I think so. Our philosophy is to be ready for it, though, because back to that growth ignition, we're choosing to invest for growth again. And you can't be in business if you don't get the shoes here from overseas, regardless of what that structure is. So we will be ready as best you can with all the disruptions to have a wonderful future. At least that's how we're planning, barring COVID disruption.
Yeah. And I want to pick up here as kind of the last question before we pivot to one of our fun sessions at the end of this show. But I'm really curious, your background's fascinating, and I love people from outside the industry coming in and bringing new ideas and having different viewpoints, and just interested as you came in 18, you said to Shoe Carnival, and you've been there for 3 years now. And then, obviously COVID hits. How has COVID changed how you think as a CEO or as a leader, managing systems and leading people? What is going forward? How do you think that's going to change how you work at the company, or how our industry is going to change around leadership and culture?
I was fortunate working in a global company that technology and working all around the world with someone like we're doing today via a Zoom or Teams meeting, that was already part of my normal behavior, just because I was all over the world talking to people. Yeah. So I came into it, I think, fortunate that I believe in connecting with people however and whenever you need to, whether that's a text to move at the speed of light or hopping on a Zoom. We can do that in retail, I believe, versus I love walking a store, but I can't walk the whole fleet every day. So I can bring new technology and new ideas, how to keep the troops connected, communication flowing transparently, and rallying around what we're trying to accomplish. So I'd say technology is a big advantage, and the communication flow, I really look to embrace that in my new role. But second, I'd say just punctuating what we learned during the pandemic, how critically important our team members are, and treating them with that great importance. We're so proud that Cliff and the leadership team and we didn't furlough one employee during the pandemic. And we learned during that period of time, despite that being a risk, despite us saying we were going to keep everyone employed because that's the right thing to do, and it worked out. We learned immediately how powerful that decision was, from the retention of our teams to the ability to recruit more because our values lined up with theirs, to just being simply ready. And we had great teams buying the whole time. So I take from 1,000 learnings during COVID the simple truth of all business. It starts and ends with having great people committed to your purpose and firing on all cylinders. And I'll double down on that to make sure in my leadership, people get our purpose, are fired up about our growth path, and know we're winning and will win. But it's a great question. We've learned quite a bit, Andy.
So with that, Andy, I think we're going to go to our next segment, which is one that's a little bit different. It's not as serious. And so, okay, Jasmine, if you could come on in and explain how this segment works. It's a shoe and show classic. So walk Mark through it, and let's get going.
Sure. Okay, so it's What You Got, What You Gettin is our segment, and we share what we have on our feet currently, and then we share what we're excited about getting next. So currently I'm in the house, so I do have on my black slippers that I always have on in the house. But I am looking for some nice shoes for like dress up shoes, because I do anticipate us having a lot of things coming in the near future here. So I would love some nice dress shoes for, networking parties and business meetings and things like that. What about you, Mark?
Well, I'm an outdoors enthusiast. So when I'm not here, I'm hiking a mountain, or I'm kayaking, or I'm cycling I love it. So for me, I live in our great athletic brands. Right this second, I happen to have on one of maybe 70 pair of my Adidas I have. Adidas sport. So I do love my Adidas. And
so does Andy.
Wonderful. What I'm going to buy next, like many of you, during the pandemic, I fell in love with slides. Oh my goodness. There's so many slides I have. And so I kind of wear through them, and I'm going to get myself another pair of slides, and I'm brand agnostic. So I'm going to buy one from all of my wonderful brands.
So diplomatic.
Way to cover it. Wow.
Exactly.
His first day on the job, and he's already playing diplomacy. I love it.
They're all amazing partners.
Oh, man. What about you, Andy?
I have on Allbirds right now, actually. Obviously everything's about comfort these days. I'm going to look to buy probably a new pair of slippers though, because it's starting to cool down a little bit. Can we wear slippers into Shoe Carnival? Is that allowed? Slippers are okay?
You bet.
Only if you're like a 18-year-old, 19-year-old co-ed on the street.
I have seen some interesting outfits at the local strip mall, like when I go get my groceries, to what the teenagers are willing to wear out. So I'm just wondering to make sure if I may not look as cool in it, but slippers okay.
I think we got a fuzzy pair waiting for you. It might have had a unicorn on its head, or I'm not sure.
Oh, man,
I can tell you multiple ones.
You nailed it. Right there.
One of my daughters will definitely steal those right away and start using those.
That's true. That's true.
Sure. Matt, what about you?
I'm wearing Hoka flops. They're so comfortable. Like if you think about a Hoka shoe and its big outsole and midsole, they created flip-flops, essentially Zoris, that are similar. And so they're very comfortable. I've been wearing them all summer. And what I'm going to get is something I've actually gotten, and this is going to be super nerdy, but over the summer I watched with my 3 girls, because they became age appropriate. We burned through all 5 Jurassic Park movies. And so Reebok did a collaboration on a Jurassic Park shoe. And so I had to buy it as a pump, and it looks like a dinosaur's eaten it and torn it up. And it's all like, it matches the colorway of the Jeeps that were used in the original one. So anyway, it's kind of molding together one of my favorite movies and my favorite thing to buy, which is a pair of shoes. So I got a limited edition Reebok pump Jurassic Park collaboration.
That's really specific.
Very specific. Unlike Mark, who buys everything from everybody, I'm very specific.
Yeah, no kidding. And we got
to buy a lot.
That's right. The joke about Jurassic Park is, what's the best part about the movie? And it's when the dinosaur eats the lawyer. So
on the can, he's on the John, right? So.
No offense to any lawyers out there, but that's my father-in-law's favorite joke about Jurassic Park. So, absolutely. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. Congratulations on your new role, and we look forward to many successes as you guys continue your path to growth. Excited to hear something that's not just about digital, but it's back to brick and mortar and the belief and people going out and doing that. Because I think you're right. I mean, myself on a Monday, I start flipping through Netflix and I spend 30 minutes thinking what I'm going to watch, and I'd rather just be somewhere else than my house, binging Netflix. So I think you're right. I think there's huge opportunity, and we're excited to see that growth and to see you guys dominate the marketplace where you're setting up shop.
Well, it was a great pleasure to talk to you all today. And, for everybody listening, let's get out there safely and get back to shopping stores. It's a blast.
All right, folks, this is Shoe and Show, the Footwear Industry's podcast. We've talked to leaders across the industry, hear their perspectives, ideas, viewpoints. Everybody's got different product types, different retail stores out there. And that's what makes the footwear industry great, is there's a number of ways that you can do it and be successful. And what we try to do is bring those voices and ideas to this show to help strengthen the industry overall. And we appreciate you listening as always. shoeandshow.com is the website. You can view all our episodes. I think we're heading north of close to 300 episodes now for Shoe and Show. So we've been doing this for over 5 years now. And we want to thank everybody for the substantial growth that we've seen over the past couple of years as people seek real information, real wisdom in our footwear industry, to try to make better decisions and get better clarity. And we hope we provide that. If you have any ideas on guests or topics you want us to cover, drop us a line, shoeandshow.com. Bottom left-hand corner, there's a little voice note. You click the button, there's a microphone that pops up, and you can actually talk into your computer and send us a message, and we'll get those and try to respond, or maybe even pop it up on the next episode if you say something really interesting. But as always, we appreciate all the listens and all the support. Please stay close to FDRA as we navigate through these supply chain challenges, inflation issues, consumer demand shifts, etc. We're the Footwear Industry's Business Association, where we try to bring people together and, again, have that clarity to make better business decisions. And we thank you for our opportunity to do that. On behalf of Matt, Jasmine, and Mark, the new CEO at Shoe Carnival, thank you for listening. And until next time, Shoe In is out.
Shoe In has been brought to you by the FDRA, the Footwear Industries Association focused on retail, trade, politics, and fashion, helping create and enhance conversations on all things footwear. For information about FDRA, visit fdra.org.